Hello everyone. Okay, so just having finished sorting out the pile of 1 cent small queens without the plate dots that I showed you on my last video, I'm now ready to show you the general shades and to describe the papers of these stamps. So just to recap, the stamps without plate dots primarily, with the exception of the stamps in the first column of the sheets for printings prior to 1880, are going to be from the period between 1880 and 1886, when the new plates that had the medallion dots were introduced, which will be the subject of my next video. So these stamps are all shades of yellow. There are some yellows that are quite deep that have a tinge of orange where they're getting to be almost orange yellow, but they're not what I would call orange shades for the purposes of Unitrade's listings. They're not 35As. There's a bright yellow that is close to the lemon yellow, but it's not really lemon yellow in the same way that the lemon yellow I showed you was, where it's a sort of bright, acidic, pale yellow. I do have a very bright, very saturated yellow that doesn't contain any orange, but it's not the lemon yellow shade. So that's the one thing that's not present in this period. There's also really no dull yellows or ochre yellows that have the tone that we saw in the mid-Montreal period. There are some dull yellows, to be sure, and there's some deep dull yellows with some slightly greenish undertones. But they're different. They don't have the sort of ochre brownish undertone that the earlier mid-Montreals had. In terms of paper, there are some that have the mid-Montreal B with the coarse mesh, but they're very few and far between. Most of the paper I've seen here in this period is a thinner paper. It's both horizontal and vertical wove. Usually the mesh tends to be very fine or not visible unless you hold it up to backlight. So that's another identifying characteristic of this period. If you come across stamps that seem completely smooth on the back with no apparent mesh, chances are those are probably late Montreal. When you turn them over and look at the felt side, you're going to notice very, very slight surface porosity. It's not anywhere near to the extent that we see on the second Ottawa, but there is just a hint of it. But the paper is still hard. It's got a stiffness to it, even though it is thin. And that, I think, identifies it as being from this period. So I'll just quickly show you what the shades that I've identified look like here. So we take the camera, turn it around. So this is what I've got here. So up here I've got an almost orangey yellow. Then we've got a very bright yellow here, deep bright yellow, a sort of a paler yellow. The pure yellow shade here, kind of a bright yellow, very bright yellow with no green undertone. Another bright yellow, but this one has a little bit of an orangey undertone. That's just the regular yellow shade, and that's the deep dull yellow. Again, you can see the cancels, duplexes mostly. There's a cork there. This is a duplex, and that's a CDS. So We're beginning to see a little bit of that here. There's not as many cork cancels as we would see on the mid period. And as we'll see as we get into the next brief period from 1886 to 88, we're going to see a little bit more in terms of CDSs, fewer corks, and we'll still continue to see duplex cancels. So that'll do it for this video. So that now covers us up to 1886. So we're nearly finished the Montreal period. There's just a little bit left from 1886 to 88 when we have the medallion dot plates. Thanks for watching. Bye.